All ye have business with this court, draw nigh and ye shall be heard. God bless the United States, this state, and this court.
All right. Good morning again. All right, we ready to proceed. Any matters to take up before we bring the jury in?
Recording in progress.
All right, then we are ready for the jury. Just let you look. Thank you. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. You may be seated. I notice every day that passes, you walk out of that room a little bit slower. So. We're glad to have you back. We are ready to presume the state's proof in this case. Mr. Crouch, you may call your first witness. You'll step right up here, sir, and raise your right hand and face our clerk to be placed under oath.
I do.
Would you state your name for the court, please, sir?
Joel Wade, Joelwade.
And how are you employed?
I am a special agent criminal investigator assigned to the Technical Services Unit at the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation.
So what does the Technical Service Unit, what do they do?
We do, primarily in my function, I do digital forensics, which would encompass mobile forensics.
All right, and in this case, were you asked to essentially do a cell phone extraction for the defendant, Joseph Daniels?
Yes, I was.
And as part of that was, did you send the phone to a company called Cellbrite?
Yes, I did.
All right. And I'm going to hand you a document. Do you recognize what I've handed you, Agent Wade?
Yes, this is their business record to detail what they did upon receipt of the device.
All right. So they sent you back some raw data, is that correct?
Correct, the physical binary extraction.
All right. And Your Honor asked to make that business record the next exhibit, please.
This would be Exhibit 234.
And then upon receipt of that data, what did you do?
I loaded that binary extraction into the physical analyzer tool from Cellbrite and parsed out the data and provided it for discovery.
And so essentially, is that just putting it in a form where we can read it and use it and go through it?
Correct.
I'm going to provide you with a copy of the cell phone data. And Your Honor, we asked to move the cell phone data in as the next exhibit.
It would be Exhibit 235.
I need the exhibit, please.
And if you would hand this, sorry about that, Ms. Lewis. That's my question, Judge.
The disc, is that correct? Or
It's,
Thumb drive.
We'll pass the witness, Judge. No questions, Judge.
Thank you. And so this is the cell phone data on a memory stick. No questions. Thank you, officer.
WADE.
Thank you, officer. You've been discharged. Statement, call your next witness.
State calls Agent Zachary Burkhart.
Ladies and gentlemen, before we started this trial, both the state and the defense agreed that there were certain individuals who would be exempted from what we call the rule. The rule is the rule that says that a witness who's going to be called must remain outside of the courtroom during the testimony of other people. The state has a right to designate someone as a law enforcement person to sit at the table with them and be exempt from that rule. The defense has also had the right to have certain people in the courtroom who sat through this trial, even though they may be potential witnesses. You should not attach any significance to the fact that Mr. Burkhart had sat through this trial up to this point, because that was something that both the state and the defense agreed to. Now you may have a seat. Raise your right hand first and be placed under oath.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you give in this case be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Agent, if you'd state your first and last name, please,
Zachary Burkhart,
and spell your first and last name.
ZACHARY-BURKHART.
Thank you. And Agent Burkhart, you are employed by the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation.
I am.
And how long have you been employed there?
Coming up on 8 years.
Thank you. And at some point in 2018 or 19, were you assigned to the Joseph Daniels investigation?
I was.
Do you know when you were assigned?
It was either June or July of 2019.
Okay. And why did you become the head agent on the case?
I was the new agent in the area.
In the area. So there was a transfer of one agent out of the area, and you were assigned here.
That's correct.
Now, before you were assigned to this district, you were collaterally involved in the investigation of the defendant also, is that correct?
Correct.
When did your initial involvement in the case begin?
April 4th.
April 4th of 2018?
Correct.
All right, thank you very much. So, agents, you've been able to hear all of the testimony from all of the witnesses thus far in the trial, is that correct?
That is correct.
And I want to just start by talking about a couple of points through the evidence that has been put forward so far. And I want to draw your attention to the screen. So, Agent, we have a T-shirt that was collected from the defendant's home, is that correct?
Correct.
And do you remember what type of T-shirt that was?
It was a black T-shirt with an alien on it with a Santa Claus hat.
And was there any text or writing on the shirt?
Yes, I believe.
Okay. And do you know what colors were in the shirt?
Green and red and
Okay.
white.
And is there any significance to the collection of that shirt at the defendant's home and the location where it was collected?
Yes.
What's that significance?
The defendant told us about that shirt
Okay. When did the defendant make the statements about that shirt?
in his confession.
In his confession on April the 6th?
Correct.
And in that confession, did he describe the shirt he was wearing when the homicide was committed?
He did.
And it was the alien shirt.
Yes.
And did he say what he had done with the shirt?
He said he had washed it.
And where was the shirt recovered?
It was recovered in the laundry room.
Okay. Next slide, please. And is this the shirt that was recovered?
Correct.
And is that the laundry room of the defendant's house?
It is.
Thank you. Next slide. Agent, do you recall hearing the testimony of Miss Jenny Jones?
I do.
And have you been able to read or look over her statement at some point in this investigation?
I have.
And essentially, what does her statement do?
She identifies Joseph Daniels
Okay?
on the early morning hours of the 4th down near the guardrails.
Down near the guardrails.
Correct.
And so she identifies the defendant outside of his home.
Correct.
At about what time, or approximately?
Approximately 1:30, 1:40
1:30 or 1:40?
a.m.
A.M. And in her statement, did she describe what he was wearing?
Yes.
And what was that?
A colorful T-shirt and shorts.
Okay. And in her testimony that the jury has heard, did she describe what color the shorts were?
She did.
And what color was that?
Red shorts.
Red shorts. All right. And Agent, do you remember approximately how far it is from the Daniels residence, 1112 Garners Creek Road, to the guardrail location where Jenny Jones identified the defendant?
Yes.
How far is that?
From the end of the driveway to the guardrail is roughly 0.8 miles.
0.8 miles. And have you personally walked that distance?
I have.
How long did it take you to walk it?
15 minutes.
15 minutes one way.
Correct.
All right. Moving kind of slow, huh?
Just a little
Oh,
bit.
I'm just joking. All right, and here we have a portion of the transcript of the defendant's confession. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And Agent Boyd asked the question, what basketball shorts were you wearing, or is there only one pair, or are there a lot? And what did the defendant do?
He showed the shorts in the interview.
I mean, did he literally pull up his shorts?
Yes.
And what color are those shorts?
Those are the red shorts.
The red shorts. And what color shorts did Jenny Jones identify?
Red shorts.
And he's wearing red shorts in this interview.
Correct.
All right. Next slide, please. In this portion of the confession, the defendant states, after I yelled at him, I walked over and saw the pee and told them to get their asses in bed, and I got more angry. Agent Boyd then asked, and what did you do? What was Joseph Daniels' answer?
I went to the living room. I unlocked the door. I put the lock in the toy box, and I left the room.
Okay. He put the lock in the toy box, and he left the room.
Correct.
And Agent, do you know where that lock was recovered?
From the toy box.
Which corroborates his statement?
Correct.
All right. Next slide, please. And Agent Burkhart, is this a photograph of the lock that was recovered from the toy box in the Daniels home?
It is.
And were you present yesterday when this lock and key were moved into evidence?
Yes.
Thank you. Next slide, please. And Agent Burkhart, is this a copy of the key to the padlock that was recovered?
It is.
Thank you. Next slide. Agent Burkhart, do you remember in the confession when Agent Boyd said, and you told Alex that if he told anybody, you'd beat him too?
Yes.
Do you remember that portion?
I do.
And then the defendant answers yes. Agent Boyd, what does he ask?
And Alex was watching? Question mark.
All right. And do you remember hearing this clip?
I know they interviewed Alex and made sure he told them everything.
What did the defendant say?
I'm pretty sure they interviewed Alex, and he told everything.
Alex is a good boy. Who? Alex. Yeah. He's a good boy. He doesn't lie. He tells the truth. It's always admirable. We taught him not to lie to anybody. Tell the truth, and that's good.
So transitioning, Agent, do you remember which interview or which occurrence this statement we just heard, the recorded statement we heard, when it occurred?
Yes.
And when was that?
That was the car ride with Detective Sergeant Trevor Daniels.
Okay. And at that point, was the defendant being questioned?
No, it was not.
Was this a spontaneous utterance or statement?
Yes.
And what did the defendant say?
He said Alex is a good boy, he tells the truth, and we told him not to lie.
Okay. Thank you. All right. We could go to the next presentation, please. Agent Burkhart, I kind of want to walk through the timeline of where the defendant was throughout some of these days, okay? If we could start with the first slide. Can you identify the slide we're seeing on the screen?
Yes, depicted here is actually from Joseph Daniels' cell phone extraction, and it's referring to an inbox message he received to his Yahoo account regarding, and the subject line reads, "Your background forms for DeVita Incorporated have been received." And the body of the message is them talking to Joseph about the applicant process.
So just to give some context, where was this email and reply email recovered from?
It was recovered from Joseph Daniels' cell phone extraction.
Okay, and we've just moved into evidence previously, the previous witness, the extraction of the cell phone.
That is correct.
So in your analysis of this case, you were able to kind of dig down in to give some context to what was going on in the defendant's life?
Correct.
Now, at this time, in March 29th, 2018, did he have a job?
He did not.
Had he been terminated?
Yes.
And what do we see here?
This is him attempting to get a new job.
Okay. And that's kind of establishing March 29th, he's attempting to get a new job.
Correct.
And he's made contact with this DeVita Services? Or?
He has.
All right. The next slide, please. And Agent, can you see this slide?
I can.
And what's this?
The next slide is timestamp 3/29/2018, and it's for Joseph Ray Daniels' account, Yahoo account. The subject line is, again, with DeVita Incorporated, background verification consent form.
And what are they looking for from the defendant?
They're wanting him to do his application for the background check authorization.
Okay, and that's on March 29th, 2018?
Correct.
Next slide. All right, Agent, can you see the slide here?
Yes.
And what date do we have?
This is 4/2/2018.
Okay, and folder says sent, R.E. DeVita, offer, next steps, timestamp 4/2/2018. Is that correct?
Yes.
And what do we have in the body?
The message reached Cody. I completed more information last week, including my drug test. Is there anything else that needs to be done? Should I receive any phone call? Thanks, Joseph Daniels.
All right, and that's on April the 2nd?
Correct.
Next slide. And Agent Burkhart, can you see this email?
Yes.
And it's an inbox folder, subject DeVita, offer next steps, date April 2nd, 2018, time 12:09. And what is the body?
It's a return email. It says, "Hi, Joe. Thank you for the update. It looks like the background check is just processing right now. Typically takes anywhere from 2 to 5 days. You should be hearing from us by Wednesday, Thursday, detailing day 1.
Okay. Next slide, please. And Agent Burkhart, can you see these emails?
Correct.
And what is this?
It's a sent email from Joseph Daniels' Yahoo account. Awesome. Thank you.
Okay. That's on April the 2nd, 2018 at 12:18.
It is.
Next slide. Agent Burkhart, can you identify this email?
Yes, this email is from Joseph Daniels' Yahoo account again. It's an inbox message, and the subject line reads, Joseph Daniels, DeVita background check, education documents needed. The timestamp is 4/3/2018 at 9:57 a.m.
All right. And what is the body?
It says, hello, my name is Tony Mija, and I am with DeVita People Services. I have been monitoring the progress on your background screening, and I need your assistance to verify your background. In order to complete your background verification, we need to verify your education. HireRight is still waiting for a response from your high school to verify your diploma. Do you happen to have a copy of your diploma or transcripts indicating successful completion and graduation that you can send me? If not, I would recommend reaching out to your school to request transcripts to speed up the process. And the last line reads, or the second to last line reads, you can fax this documentation to me and at 1-866-331-0110 or scan in your documentation and attach to a response email to me. Thank you and congratulations on your contingent job offer.
And Agent Burkhart, I want to draw your attention specifically to or scan in. I think we all know what scan in means. What does that mean to you?
Scan in means the documentation that Mr. Mihai is talking about, that you would use a scanner or some digital aspect to scan in the app,
Okay.
or scan in the documentation.
And this is on April 3rd, 2018.
That is correct.
All right, next slide, please. Agent Burkhart, we see an email in the sent folder from Joseph Daniels to DeVita background check, April 3rd, 2018 at 10:35 seconds a.m. Is that correct?
Correct.
And what's the body say?
Tony, attached is a PDF of my high school diploma. Let me know if you need anything else. Thanks, Joseph Daniels.
Next slide. And Agent Burkhart, we have an email from the account of Joseph Ray Daniels, inbox. And who is this from?
Information needed for your DeVita Incorporated background verification.
Okay, and what's the timestamp?
4/3/2018 at 9:03 p.m.
Okay, and status?
Status is red.
Okay. And what's the body?
The body, Dear Joseph, on behalf of DeVita Incorporated, we're working to complete your background verification. We're requesting additional information to help expedite the completion of your background verification. And then below it says information requested. Okay. We have been in contact with Nashville State Community College. Unfortunately, we couldn't obtain the information needed to complete the verification. Please provide us with W-2s, 1099s, and or pay stubs to represent your start and end dates of employment. Be sure to cover, hide any sensitive personal information such as your social security number and date of birth, and provide clarification if the paying party is different from the employer name you provided on your application. Also, please let us know if you do not have this documentation available. We are dedicated to completing this screening in a timely manner. We're depending on your assistance to make this happen. Please redact all salary, wages, earnings, bonuses, benefits, or other pay information, compensation history from any documents you voluntarily submit to HireRight for employment verification, employer and dates of employment. Failure to redact or remove your compensation history will result in your submitted employment verification documents being provided to your backgrounds requester as is, including, as applicable, any compensation history contained with your documents. The next bulleted paragraph. We have been in contact with Dixon County High School. However, we were unable to obtain the necessary information to complete this verification. We are asking you to please provide us with one of the following pieces of documentation: diploma, degree, certificate, and or transcripts. If you do not have the documents requested above, please contact us so we can help identify alternative options.
Thank you. And again, what is the timestamp on this?
The timestamp is 4/3/2018 at 9:03 p.m.
Next slide, please. All right, Agent, can you identify this slide?
Yes, I can.
What is this?
This is Officer Tim Simmons' dash cam approaching the scene on April 4th, 2018, and the timestamp reads 7:33 a.m.
7:33 a.m. On what date?
April 4th.
April 4th, 2018.
Correct.
Is this after the defendant has called 911?
It is.
All right, play the slide. Agent, can you identify that vehicle?
Yes.
Who is that?
This is Joseph Daniels' vehicle.
All right. And is it moving? Well, it's paused right now, but was it moving before we paused the slide?
It is. It's north.
Okay. What? Did there appear to be more than one person in the vehicle?
It did.
Okay. Agent Burkhart, can you identify that person who just turned towards the screen?
Yes, that is Crystal Daniels.
Thank you. Okay, Agent Burkhart, who is in the screen now? What vehicle?
The maroon Chevy Impala.
Okay, in what direction is it headed this time?
It's headed south on Garner's Creek.
And does it stop at his residence?
It does not.
Is that the end of the slide?
And that's at 7:36 a.m.
7:36 a.m.
You will see it continue down the road,
Out of sight?
out of sight.
All right. And Agent Burkhart, just for some context, by 7:36 a.m., is there already a significant law enforcement response to the 911 call?
There is.
Resources are being brought in from all around the area.
There is.
Do you know at this point if the Highway Patrol helicopter is en route or already over the area?
Right now, it's most likely en route and about to be up.
Okay, next slide. And Agent Burkhart, can you identify this slide?
Yes, this is the Bethany's retreat video. This is going farther down Garner's Creek in the south direction, headed towards Love's. This is still before Harris Road. And the timestamp on this video in the top left corner is 4/4/2018 at 7:51 a.m. and 12 seconds.
And Agent Burkhart, what did we see in that slide?
We saw the same vehicle.
And that's the defendant's vehicle?
Correct.
And what direction of travel?
It's going south on Garner's Creek.
And do you know approximately how far it is between his residence and Bethany Retreat?
Roughly 3 or 4 miles.
Thank you. And the next slide. Now, Agent Burkhart, do we know what time the defendant, he's seen south, going south here, past Bethany Retreat, and he is gone from his residence for a while. Is that correct?
Correct, till 9:19 a.m.
He's gone until 9:19. And how do you know he's gone until 9:19?
We see him pull back up in the same vehicle on the officer's dash cam again, and he actually parks his vehicle out on the road, gets out and walks down the driveway.
Okay. Now, what happens that on April 4, 2018 at 9:13, 6 minutes before he gets home?
It's an outgoing call from Joseph Daniels. The number at the bottom is 615-353-3333.
And have you researched that phone number?
I have.
And who is that phone number?
Nashville State Community College.
Nashville State Community College. And how long is he on the phone with Nashville State Community College?
1 minute and 17 seconds.
So he's not really searching for his son, is he?
No.
Objection.
He can't
James, I
testify.
think it would be requesting, I think the officer can testify by what he sees, but his interpretation of that would be subjective. Sustain the objection.
How long is he on the phone with Nashville State?
1 minute and 17 seconds.
Assuming that he's in his vehicle and driving and talking at the same time, can he be both talking on the phone, driving, and searching for his son?
I would say that would be tough.
Thank you. Next slide. And can you identify this slide?
Yes, this is Officer Tim Simmons' dash cam again, still sitting at the residence, and the video is recording. And here in a moment, when the video is played, you will see the red vehicle of Joseph Daniels pull back up.
Okay, we can play that. Is that his vehicle?
It is.
And what's the time indication on
The current time that's rolling, it says 9:18 and 43 seconds.
And just to clarify on that Nashville State phone call, that was a call that he made, not received, but one he made to Nashville State.
Correct.
Now, let's put that in context. That call was at 9:13 a.m. How many resources from all over Middle Tennessee were looking for Joe Clyde Daniels while he was on the phone calling Nashville State over some transcripts?
Multiple, just an unbelievable amount of law enforcement. Unbelievable amount.
Airplanes in the air?
Yes.
Helicopters?
Yes.
TWRA?
Yes.
Highway Patrol?
Yes.
Dixon County?
Yes.
TBI?
Yes.
All responding to search for who?
Joe Clyde Daniels.
And who is he on the phone with?
Nashville State Community College.
While everybody else is searching for his son. Next slide. We have another email. And this is from the account of Joseph Ray Daniels at yahoo.com.
Correct.
And it's sent. Who's
The subject is Tiny Scanner W2 for Nashville State Community College. Tiny Scanner is an app. It's an app where you can upload or scan documents.
Now, let's talk about that again. I've already asked you what it means to scan a document. What is a tiny scanner?
Tiny scanner app. There's many different versions of this out there. You can take your phone camera, scans the document in, and it provides you it can provide you a photo form or a PDF form.
Okay. And what do we have this as an attachment?
It's the attachment reads application PDF W-2 for Nashville State Community College.
And what is the timestamp on this sent email?
4/4/2018, 10:02 a.m. and 34 seconds.
Okay. Is Joseph Daniels, the defendant, sending an attachment at 10:02 a.m. while everybody else is out searching for a son?
Correct. And it says from Joseph Ray Daniels to Joseph Ray Daniels.
And what does that mean?
Typically, when you scan a document like that, you want to get it into an email. You will send it to yourself.
Thank you. Next slide. And what do we see here, Agent Burkhart?
This is diploma.
And what format is this in, or how did you recover this diploma?
This is off Joseph Daniels' phone.
Okay. Was it scanned through the tiny scanner?
I do not remember if this one was or not.
Okay. And let's talk a little bit about his diploma. I don't know if you can read it from here. It says, what does it say at the top?
State of Tennessee Department of Education. This is to certify that Joseph Ray Daniels has satisfied the requirements for graduation from high school as, I can't.
Is that, and does it say the 23rd day of May 2008 at Dixon County High School?
Yes, 23rd day of May 2008 at Dixon County High School.
And does this appear to be one of the documents that was requested from DeVita?
Yes.
Next slide. What do we have here?
This is, let's see. All right, yeah, this is Joseph Daniels W-2.
And the W-2, I think we all know what that is, but is this one of the documents that was requested from DeVita to complete his employment background search?
Correct.
Next slide. All right, Agent, what do we have on the left of the screen, the email?
Joseph Ray Daniels at yahoo.com.
And it's an inbox,
Yes.
dated,
4/4/2018, 11:34 a.m.
and what is this?
This is a inbox message from DeVita, and the body reads, "Thank you. I will send it to Higher Right."
And is it showing an attachment at the top?
Correct.
So is this a response to Joseph Daniels?
Yes.
And the status of it is marked what?
Red.
So this morning, he's calling Nashville State, the morning of April 4th, and emailing documents and reading emails from DeVita,
Correct.
all while everyone is searching.
Yes.
Next slide. And what do we have here?
This is 4/5/2018. This is the Pruitt Springs camera that y'all have already seen before. This is in the early morning hours, and we need to remember that we need to add 34 minutes to this time.
Yes, thank you. And how do we know 34 minutes?
Based on law enforcement's arrival to the scene.
Now, what is significant about the date here, April the 5th, 2018?
This is when Joseph Daniels, after speaking with Agent Kennard, Sergeant Trevor Daniel, and Special Agent Andrew Graves, he leaves shortly after and makes a trip to Love's.
Now, we've already heard testimony from Agent Kennard and Detective Trevor Daniels that an interview occurred at the defendant's home. Is that correct?
Correct.
And that interview ended fairly late that night.
It did.
And sometime after the interview, what are we about to watch?
About to watch down the lower right corner, Joseph Daniels' vehicle leave out of the driveway and turn right to head south on Garner's Creek towards Love's.
And Agent, you are better than me at a lot of things, but especially picking out where this vehicle is. Can you come do it?
I will. We will all look down here to this right corner. You will start to see a faint light here shortly. Right here.
And Agent, do we see a light on in the screen that's created by the defendant's car?
We do.
Can you point to that light? Agent Burkhart, what direction is the vehicle headed?
Vehicle's turning right out of the driveway. You're not gonna see the lights heading down the road, headed, down, south down Garner Street.
South on Garner Street.
Correct.
And the time is 01:49:54 on the screen, so does that put us at approximately 2:24, 2:23 a.m.
It does.
on the morning of April 5th, 2018?
It does.
Okay, Agent Burkhart, I'm going to again draw your attention to the screen, and I believe this clip has already previously been entered as an exhibit. Can you identify it for us, please?
Yes, this is a clip of Love's truck stop on the morning of 4/5/2018, and the timestamp down the, if you'll pay attention to the lower left corner, reads 2:44 a.m. and 58 seconds.
Okay, so roughly 20 minutes after he turns south out of his driveway on Garner Street, we had video from Love's truck stop.
Correct.
He'll play the video. And has the defendant entered the screen on the left?
He has.
And is the defendant making a purchase?
He is.
All right, so the defendant makes his purchase, receives his change from the cashier, and begins to exit at what time?
2:45 a.m. and 44 seconds.
This is all at Love's Travel Center on 48 South.
Yes.
Next slide, please. And Agent Burkhart, if I could have you identify the timestamp here.
Yes. Down in the lower left corner, the video began at roughly 3:03 a.m.
Okay. Love's truck stop.
Correct.
Same location we just saw the defendant.
Yes.
He's now back approximately 18 minutes later.
Yes.
Is he again making another purchase?
He is.
Does it appear what type of denominations he's using to make this purchase?
Appears to be single dollar bills.
Agent, do you know the name of the cashier?
I believe his name is Lee Gervais.
Okay. And in a moment, will we see a second cashier come into the screen?
Yes.
And what is her name?
Lavone Chapman-Robins.
And we've previously heard her testimony.
Correct.
All right, Agent Burkhart, can you note the time on the screen?
Yes, 3:09 a.m. and 34 seconds.
3:09 a.m. 34 seconds. Approximately how long does the defendant remain in Loves at this stop?
2:45. Actually, on this one, about 8 minutes.
Okay, and just to keep in mind, he had first come into Loves at about 2:45.
Correct.
Made a purchase, left, and then based on your investigation and the testimony we've heard, what happened after he left Loves at 2:45 or thereabouts?
He went back to Harris Road.
And what happened on Harris Road?
He was in his car.
Was he observed by someone?
Yes.
And who was he observed by?
Lavone-Robins.
Okay.
Chapman-Robins.
So the defendant was in Loves, made a purchase, went back to Harris Road, and was observed by Ms. Chapman-Robins.
Correct.
And what does the defendant do then?
He then comes back to Love's.
He goes back to Loves and makes another purchase?
He does.
Okay. And based on the testimony that you've heard and your investigation, after the defendant leaves Loves on this second purchase, does someone in his family call Loves?
Yes.
And who calls?
Big Joe.
And that's his father?
Yes.
And do we know about how many times he called Loves that night?
I do not.
Okay. And next slide. And Agent Burkhart, can you identify this, please?
Yes, this is the Pruitt Springs camera again. This is going to be on 4/5/2018, so we're looking at the same day here. And this is going to be right around 3:20, so I had 34 minutes. It's going to be right around 3:28 a.m. in the morning, and we're going to see Joseph Daniels coming back from Love's.
Agent Burkhart, can we see the defendant's vehicle now going up his driveway?
Correct.
Is this the light?
Yes.
Lights here?
So they start reflecting to the left as he's pulling in.
And does this complete the circuit from leaving his home to Love's and back?
Yes.
Agent Burkhart, we've had several opportunities to review photographs from the defendant's home. Photographs that were taken on April the 4th, 2018 by Dixon County Sheriff's Office, and photographs that were taken on April the 7th of 2018 pursuant to a search warrant that was executed. Is that right?
That's correct.
Now, on April the 4th of 2018, law enforcement and emergency services were responding to a missing child. Is that correct?
They were.
And no one was arrested, and there was not a criminal investigation.
Correct.
Was there a search warrant or any probable cause on the morning of April 4th to execute a search warrant on the home of Joseph Daniels?
There was not.
So no items were removed from his house that morning.
Correct.
But there were some photographs taken.
Correct.
And I want to review some of those photographs with you. Photos at 1112 Garners Creek on April 4th, 2018. Go to the first slide. Agent Burkhart, can you identify this photograph?
Yes, this is inside of the residence, 112 Garners Creek. This is inside the back door.
And that's the morning of April 4th, mid-morning?
Correct.
And can you describe what is near and around the rear entrance to the home?
Yes, there's toys on the ground. There's the toy box. There's also a Rubbermaid, what appears to be like a Rubbermaid container, and a lot of other toys.
Okay. I'll move this photograph as the next exhibit. If you would just pass it.
236.
Agent, can you identify this photograph?
Yes, this is overall shot of the living room right below the mantel. We have a lot of toys on the floor.
Okay. Move that as exhibit 237. again, that was the morning of April 4th.
Correct.
And can you identify this photograph?
Yes.
What is that?
This is the coffee table in the living room. Have some clothes on it, toy truck, what appears to be a baby bottle with some liquid in it.
Morning of April 4th?
Correct.
Move that as Exhibit 238. And Agent, can you identify this photograph?
Yes, this is the inside of the living room again, as depicted. This is a shot of going into Big Joe and Belle's room, and TV. There's also the hutch to the right that's blocking the door.
There's a hutch in front of the front door.
Correct.
And is that a two-piece hutch?
It is.
And is there an Easter basket laying in the floor?
There is.
And do we see the reflections of two children in the TV screen?
We do.
And who are those two children?
Alex and Noah.
Make that the next exhibit.
239.
And can you identify this photograph?
Yes, this is in the master bedroom. This is a shot of the bed from the door. It's a shot of the floor and the stuff on the floor.
Okay. And just making note of the floor, we see several pieces of maybe debris or paper or something. Is that correct?
Correct.
I'll move that as Exhibit 240. Can you identify this photograph?
Yes, this is another shot of the master bedroom depicted. We see an Easter basket hanging, piece of clothing on a chair, and another chair and a laundry across the room.
Move that as Exhibit 241. All right, now I want to turn your attention to photographs that were taken on April the 7th. Now, is April the 7th the morning after the defendant was arrested?
Correct.
He was arrested on the evening of April the 6th.
Right.
And the following morning was a search warrant executed.
Yes, I believe, and it may have been a little bit later in the day. It was actually executed.
Either way, these photographs were from April 7th, 2018.
It is.
So 3 days later.
Yes.
And can you identify this photograph?
Yes, this is a shot from the back door going into the living room.
And any distinctions between that photograph entering versus entering on April the 4th?
Appears to be a lot cleaner when you compare the photos.
Okay, and is the second piece of the hutch no longer there?
It is not.
And we don't know, do you know who moved the second piece of the hutch?
Do not.
Move that as the next exhibit.
242.
This is another shot of the living room. Walking in from the door. Depicted is the couch. And we also have the coffee table, the bottom piece of the hutch, another coffee table right next to the couch.
Okay. You see any toys on the floor or on the couch or on the coffee table?
Do not.
All right. Move that as the next exhibit.
243.
Can you identify this photograph?
Yes, this is the double doors going into the master bedroom.
And that's going into the master bedroom of Belle and Big Joe Daniels.
It is.
Move that as the next exhibit.
244.
Can you identify this photograph?
Yes, this is standing in the doorway of the master bedroom. Depicted is a floor shot and the bed of the master bedroom.
Thank you. Move that as Exhibit 245. Can you identify this photograph?
Yes, this is another shot of the master bedroom, and we have chairs and the bed and a few other items.
Okay. Move that as the next exhibit.
246.
And Agent Burkhart, who is taking these photographs? I mean, is it a team in the house at this point?
Yeah, it'd be the VCRT team.
And we heard testimony from VCR yesterday that they go in and photograph the residents prior to going in and marking and identifying locations for additional testing.
They do.
And is that what's going on here?
Correct.
All right. Can you identify this photograph?
This is the same, but we're also now in the bedroom. Now we're looking at the double doors to the bedroom, facing out, going back into the living room.
So standing in the bedroom, looking out into the living room.
Correct.
Thank you. Move that as the next exhibit.
247.
Okay, now, Agent, I want to do just some comparison photos between April the 4th of 2018 and April the 7th of 2018.
Okay.
If we could bring up the first slide, please. And can you identify this photograph?
Yes, to the left is depicted an outside shot of the residence, mainly of the backyard.
Now, obviously, we have two different photographers.
Correct.
On the left side, from April the 4th, we have the photographer from Dixon County Sheriff's Office. On the right side, we have the photographer from the VCR.
Yes, we do.
On the left side, it's a different angle, but can you see the rear porch?
Yes.
And do you see items sitting on the corner of the porch?
Yes.
Okay. And do you see those same items sitting on the porch now?
Do not.
I'll move that to the next exhibit.
48.
Can you identify this photograph?
Yes, this is a photo from April 4th, and the one to the right is from April 7th. They're both shots of the back rear porch.
Okay, Dixon County photographs the morning of April 4th. Doesn't appear to be any kind of cloth materials or blankets in these chairs.
Correct.
On the morning of April 7th, there's a blanket.
Correct.
Move that to the next exhibit. Can you identify this photograph?
Yes, this is two photos again. To the left, it's a door entry on April 4th, 2018, and then the other photo is from April 7th, 2018.
Just general comparison, comparing April 4th to April 7th, does there appear to have been a general cleaning up of the house between these two entry locations?
Yes.
Move that to the next exhibit.
50.
Can you identify this photograph?
Yes, we have two photos again, one from the 4th, and then on the right, one from the 7th.
Okay, and again, general comparison of the two photographs, we see what do these appear to be to you?
Appears to be trash on the floor.
Just something on the floor.
Right.
Are those items on the floor in this photograph?
No. There's some items there from the other photo, but
Pardon?
there are some items
Correct.
there from the other
You see
photo.
some similar items
Right.
in this box
Yes, appears to be.
and this step stool?
Yes.
But as far as these white pieces of whatever they are?
Right. No.
Move that to the next exhibit.
51.
Can you identify this photograph?
Yes, we have two photos again, one from the 4th on the left, and then on the right from the 7th.
And in this photograph, just some general observations. What's the distinction in the chairs?
The chairs are moved, a piece of clothing or a towel is off of it, and then,
On the photograph from April 4th, we see some type of what appears to be cloth. Is that right?
right.
Do we know if that's a shirt, towel, robe?
I couldn't be for sure.
And is that same piece of material here?
No.
Are the chairs in different locations?
Yes.
And in this photograph, is there a laundry basket?
Yes.
You see a laundry basket over here? Versus
Yes.
this photograph?
Yes, I do.
I'll move that to the next exhibit.
52.
And last photograph.
We have two photos again, one from the 4th on the left and another from the 7th on the right.
And on the photographs from April 4th, we see items on the coffee table,
Correct.
floor, on the couch.
Yes.
And what about on the photograph from the 7th?
We don't see any of those items.
Okay, I'll move that as the next exhibit.
253.
Now, Agent, while it may not seem significant to many people, as an investigator, is it significant to you that items had been moved and the house had been cleaned up between April 4th of 2018 and April 7th?
Yes.
Why is that significant?
It appeared that things have been cleaned up.
If you were an investigator and executing a search warrant on April the 7th, would you hope that the home had been no items moved and nothing vacuumed or cleaned?
Correct.
What happens when you start vacuuming and cleaning?
Items can leave.
Can evidence be destroyed?
Yes.
Can evidence disappear?
Yes.
All right. And next. Judge, for this next presentation, you want to hit the jury out.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to have a short hearing. If you'll step across the hall, please.
May I start?
No, well, our clerk was in charge of trying to make sure we get food for our jury, and we have adopted the policy of trying to make sure that we get food brought in so that they're not required to leave this building since they are sequestered, and so she's going to need about 5 minutes after we finish this hearing to determine what they want to have for lunch. So, in addition to that, I have a question that has been submitted by one of the jurors that we'll need to take up during this break. You want me to address that first?
Sure.
Question is, did the defendant arrive home moving north to south when he left home going in the south direction the morning of April 4th? I'm not sure that's clear, but I think it's asking the clarification about the direction that he arrived home, moving which direction, and when he left home he was going in the south direction. So I think they just want clarification about the direction of the moving. So I think that can be asked by the state or the defendants, or I can ask it.
I'll ask you.
All right. Now let's go ahead and take up your jury out matter.
Judge, in the next portion of Agent Burkhart's testimony, we will be moving for entrance of Facebook records via certificate of authentication. These Facebook records are the records belonging to Crystal Daniels, and they contain communication between herself and Mr. Thomas Richards. We have previously, Mr. Lockhart asserted that he had filed a motion to exclude all extrajudicial statements of the co-defendant, which we kind of left it at that. But I went back last night and I looked at the motion, and that's not what the state agreed to, and that was not the motion filed by Mr. Lockhart. Mr. Lockhart filed a motion in limine to keep us from putting on the statements made by Crystal Daniels, testimonial statements in which she accused Mr. Daniels of murdering Joe Clyde, which would specifically be her interview, confession, and polygraph on April the 9th of 2018. These these records, Facebook records, are not testimonial and they're not hearsay. We have gathered these records via search warrant and have the appropriate authentication documents, and I will be moving them in, but I wanted to have a jury out hearing first.
I'd request that he go ahead and ask him about the records so that you and I can know.
I think it would be I agree with Mr. Lockhart. Let me hear what you've got to put on, and then that will help me to determine whether it's admissible or not. So. We'll just assume the authentication is made, unless you want to go into that. I'm assuming the authentication is what General Crouch says it is.
I'm not concerned about the authentication, but I do want to know what statements she made in Facebook comments or posts that he's talking about.
All right.
All right, Agent Burkhart, you obtained the records, the Facebook records of Ms. Crystal Daniels via a certificate of authenticity of domestic records or regularly conducted activity. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And the date of receipt on that was May 13th, 2021?
Correct.
And I will...
TBI received those. I did not research them.
Thank you. And we are going to, from those records, you have clipped certain portions of communications that Crystal Daniels made with Mr. Thomas Richards?
Correct.
And we're going to see those on the screen?
Yes.
All right, and Mr. Etheridge, if you would. And Agent Burkhart, what do we see on the screen?
This is a Facebook business record. We're going to see the first is Crystal Daniels, the body of it. She accepted Thomas's request. It was sent 2/10/2018. The timestamp is 12:44 UTC time. This date is prior to March 11th, which would be, I believe that was daylight savings time. So instead of subtracting minus 5 hours for UTC time, we need to subtract minus 6.
In the big picture here, there are 1,000 pages, which we have narrowed down to 10.
I think there's 20,000.
And we are limiting the communication to what they call Facebook Messenger messages between Crystal Daniels and Thomas Richards.
Yes, direct messages.
Direct messages. And when reading these on the screen, do we read from the bottom up or the top down?
The bottom up.
And it appears that she had accepted Thomas's request on February 10th, 2018.
Correct.
All right, we go to the next slide. Now, you may have to come over here and read these because it's long. But starting at the bottom, Thomas Richards sent a message, how come, and what does it say next?
Thomas Richards, how come? The next message is from Crystal Daniels, because he lets his parents tell him what to do and when to do it, and also he lets his family talk to me anyway. They want to, and he doesn't even take up for me when they do it. When I go to take up for myself, he tells me to knock it off, and it pissed me off.
Okay. And the author on the next one was Crystal Daniels, and it was sent. And what does she say?
The body of it reads, if I was your wife, would you allow for that to go on? Question mark.
Next.
The body from Crystal Daniels' message, if it tells you anything, I ripped up our marriage license and I went and had the papers drawn up. All that has to be done is him sign them, and then the papers have to be filed with the court.
Next.
The next message from Crystal Daniels, I haven't been happy for the last 3 years. Thomas Richards replies, that sucks. The next message is from Crystal Daniels, yeah, it really does. The next message from Crystal Daniels, and I have to say, I think I started falling for you because you treated me with respect. You treated me like a person, as well as you treated me like a woman should be treated. And of course, there was that attraction as well, and not just physically, but mentally and spiritually. And to be honest, I haven't felt that with him in a very long time.
Next message.
From Thomas Richards, I think getting your own place would help. Next message is from Crystal Daniels, he will never leave his daddy. Next message is from Crystal Daniels, but I have already filled out housing and Section 8 application for me and my babies, because he already told me he wouldn't leave his dad and Belle. But I'm not going to raise my kids in this environment. I'm a grown woman, and I do not need to be living with mommy and daddy. I am too old for that shit.
Next page. Bottom of the screen.
Starting at the bottom, Crystal Daniels, body reads, do you blame me? Next message from Crystal, sorry if I'm boarding you, LOL. Thomas Richards replies, no, it's good to have independence. Crystal Daniels, I think so too. Crystal Daniels, and with all 3 boys in school next year, it will be easy for me to work while they are in school so I can pay my bills and I will be able to provide a good life for my boys. Thomas Richards, it would be tough, but yeah, I think so. Thomas Richards, between you and Joe.
Hold up 1 second. I think this gets one.
I did skip one. Crystal Daniels, and we get $1,200 a month on baby Joe because of his disability. So with me working a full-time job, don't you think I will be able to provide a good life for my boys? The next one from Thomas, it would be tough, but yeah, I think so. Thomas Richards, between you and Joe, you would be fine. Crystal Daniels, what do you mean it would be tough? Thomas Richards, it's tough finding good jobs in that area. Thomas Richards, compared to here anyway. Crystal Daniels, not really. Jobs have became very plentiful around here. Thomas Richards, there is so much stuff here. We're in the middle of the U.S., so we have lots of shipping companies here. The bottom message is cut off. The next message from Crystal Daniels, all thanks. Crystal Daniels, I think you would like it even more now because of my tattoos. LOL.
Now, Agent Burkhart, in this investigation, have you noticed some pattern here between this, Daniels and Thomas Richards?
Yes.
Some communications, sexual in nature?
Yes.
Is it from these messages, do you see her, what she expresses as an intent to get a divorce?
Yes.
And to leave the defendant?
Yes.
Okay. And Mr. Etheridge, if we could go to the next grouping of slides. And Detective Burkhart, from the Cellbrite extraction on the defendant's phone, we see, well, first let me back up. We see a gap in Facebook messaging between Crystal Daniels and Thomas Richards, ending sometime at the end of March. Is that correct?
Correct.
And it doesn't resume again until when?
I believe it was April 1st or 2nd.
Okay. And in that
Going into the 3rd, yes.
Going into the 3rd?
Yes.
So her messaging with Thomas Richards appears to end. It's just, or there's what do we see?
March 30th, 2018, 11:51 p.m. Google search, anonymous parental test.
Okay. Now, we have put this into kind of a timeline, but this is an extraction from his phone
Yes.
where he has done a Google search, and is that what we're looking at now?
Yes, this is a snippet from the extraction.
And this is the defendant's web history in which he is searching what?
Anonymous parental test, Google search.
And the next slide. On March the 30th at 11:51 p.m., he visited a website named what?
Genovate.com.
Okay, next slide. And Genovate is what?
DNA paternity test.
Okay, next slide. Back up. March 30th at 11:52, visited the website DNAtesting.com with a question about testing without mom or dad knowing. Is that correct?
Correct.
And if we can see the link to that. Is this the website that was visited?
Yes.
And what's it?
The title: How can I do a secret paternity test without mom, dad, or child knowing? Question mark.
Next question, or next slide. March 31st, 2018 at 12:06 a.m. Did the defendant send a text message?
Yes.
And who did he send it to?
His mother.
And what did the text message say?
Fuck this world. By the time you see this message, I'll be 6 foot under.
And that text message was extracted from the defendant's cell bright and phone records.
Correct.
And what do we see here?
This is a snippet of the cell phone extraction. Shows that it was sent 3/31/2018 from Joseph Daniels at 12:06 a.m. The UTC time is adjusted, and it's explaining the same text message at the bottom.
And this is roughly 3 days prior to the death of Joe Clyde Daniels.
Correct.
He tells his mother, next time you see me, I'll be 6 feet under.
Correct.
Next message, or next slide. March 31st, 2018, the defendant visited website Southwest Airlines.
Correct.
And what do we see here?
This is another snippet of the cell phone extraction, explaining the timestamp 3/31/2018 at 12:39 a.m. It has a URL, themobilesouthwest.com, and then /air/booking/shopping.
Next slide. March 31st, 2018, 12:44 a.m. This is a Greyhound website.
Yes.
Next slide. And what do we see here?
Another snippet of the phone extraction. The title is Greyhound. It says last visited 3/31/2018, 12:44 a.m. and 15 seconds.
Next slide. And agent on March 31st, 2018, 12:46 a.m. What do we have?
March 31st, 2018, 12:46 a.m. We have a Greyhound destination city, Wichita. The website was visited.
Wichita, Kansas.
Yes.
Next slide. What's this?
It's the value of the search, and the domain name is at the bottom, www.greyhound.com.
Next slide. March 31st, 2018, 12:47 a.m. Visited website Enterprise.
Correct.
And what's this?
This is a titled Enterprise Google search. It shows last visited, and then on 3/31/2018 at 12:57 a.m. Then it shows the URL link through Google to the Enterprise.
Next slide. April 3rd, 2018, text message from Crystal. Hey, where are you?
Yes.
Okay. And what do we say here?
It's another snippet of the cell phone extraction from Joseph's phone, and showing the text message from Crystal to Joseph. Hey, where are you?
That's April 3rd, 2018 at 9:58 a.m.
It is.
Next slide.
Yes.
And his response?
Mental health.
Is this the extraction?
It is.
And what's the time stamp on that?
4/3/2018, 9:59 a.m. with 21 seconds, and it's the mental health text message.
And from this investigation, did you determine where Thomas Richards lives?
Wichita, Kansas.
Wichita, Kansas. And we see some searching for Wichita, Kansas from the defendant's cell phone extracts
Correct.
at the end of that presentation. All right. Those would be the questions on that topic, Your Honor.
Mr. Walker?
Based on the Greyhound Enterprise airline searches to Wichita, Kansas, which of the two, Joseph Daniels or Crystal Daniels, would you expect to be making those searches?
They were from Joseph Daniels' phone.
I didn't ask you that. Based on what you know about what she said about going to see her mom and her boyfriend, who do you think would be making those searches to find out how to get there?
Could be Crystal. It could be Joseph.
Logically, it would be Crystal, isn't that right?
Could be either or.
So the fact that she's talked about going to see her mom, going to see her boyfriend, that doesn't weigh heavier that it would be Crystal trying to find a way to get there?
These are just messages from Joseph Daniels' cell phone extraction from the device.
So they don't really mean anything as far as to who did it. We don't know.
The content means something
If you don't know who's doing it, how does the content mean anything?
because the content is on the phone.
So anything on the phone is content that means something?
Yes, it can have meaning.
Okay. What's the meaning of checking on an airline ticket to Wichita when you don't even know who it was that was asking about that?
Like I said, that's just the data from Joseph Daniels' cell phone.
So you're just wanting to introduce this because it's data on his phone. Doesn't mean anything.
It means something, but we're introducing the data from Joseph Daniels' cell phone.
Well, I ask you, what does it mean?
It's showing data for Wichita, Kansas, and it's showing Southwest, and it's showing the Greyhound.
And what does that mean if you don't know who made that search?
It's just showing searches.
All right. And what does it mean if someone's making searches?
They are querying certain things, such as the content that we just saw.
And what is that relevant to in this case?
Their trip to Wichita, Kansas.
It's relevant to a trip to Wichita, Kansas?
Could be.
It could be relevant to a trip to Wichita, Kansas.
Correct.
Trip was never made,
It was not.
and you don't know who was searching for it.
Do not.
That's all the questions I have, Your Honor.
Agent, so let's look at this in the big picture. We just got finished reading some graphic interchanges between Crystal Daniels and Thomas Richards, correct?
Correct.
Her suggesting she's going to visit Thomas Richards in Wichita, Kansas.
Correct.
If the defendant begins searching Wichita, Kansas, could that go to show motive and intent?
It could.
His motive to be angry at Crystal?
Yes.
If you were married to a woman and discovered that she had been cheating on you or was planning on it or planning on going to visit her boyfriend, would you be upset?
I would be upset.
If you saw the content that which we've just reviewed, those graphic messages between Crystal and Thomas, would that upset you?
Yes.
So I think when Mr. Lockhart's asking about whatever he's asking about, I'm asking you about motive and intent. And can we see some intent of Joseph here researching Wichita, Kansas and how to get to Wichita, Kansas?
Yes.
Can we also see Crystal's intent to leave the defendant by divorce?
Yes.
Do we also see her intent to take all of the children with her?
Yes.
Does she tell Mr. Richards that she's going to get that she gets $1,200 a month from because of Joe Clyde Daniels, and through that money, she should be able to establish herself in a house with the kids until she can get a job.
Yes.
Okay. Pass the witness.
A few more questions, Your Honor. Tell us what evidence you have that Joseph Daniels read these messages that she was using Alex's tablet to send.
Can you repeat the question again?
What evidence do you have that my client Joseph Daniels saw this correspondence with her boyfriend while she was using Alex's tablet?
I do not have that.
And so how is that relevant to motive if you can't even show that he read those?
We have communication between two individuals, and one of the individuals is married to Joseph Daniels. That's Crystal Daniels, and it is a very explicit exchange between those two individuals. Following those messages, we have a text between Joseph and his mom, and we have some searches that we have presented on the screen that show him being very upset. The text message, the content of it.
All right, but as to those conversations, no doubt she's told him that she doesn't love him. They've argued, and she's already said she got divorce papers as far as this goes, but did you verify that she had gotten a divorce complaint?
I have not.
So you can't corroborate that?
I cannot.
All right. And you can't corroborate or verify that Joseph Daniels read all of those lewd conversations on Alex's tablet?
I cannot.
And would you expect her to leave that type stuff on an 8-year-old son's tablet for him to see?
I would hope not.
All right. So, I mean, logically, we don't have any idea that he ever saw those, do we?
I cannot say that Joseph Daniels saw those messages.
All right. But even though you can't say he saw them, you're wanting to admit them to show motive on his part.
The content of his phone and the content of Crystal Daniels' Facebook extraction.
Any indication whether Joseph Daniels ever sent off for DNA testing or requested DNA testing?
No.
You testified just a minute ago with Mr. Crouch that she was going to take her kids to Kansas, but did I not hear or read in those conversations that she said she was coming alone by herself?
There is a message in there.
Okay. So we can't tell anything about that.
You have
She's
to-
saying she's coming by herself, and then she's indicating bringing the kids. There's been testimony and a bulletin board that said something about going to Kansas, but you don't know whether she's being honest if she texted, "I'm coming alone." You don't know if she's being honest if she texted or messages, "I'm bringing the boys." You can't tell, can you?
I cannot, but what I can say is that is the content of those messages. Whether or not she was being truthful in one and the next she wasn't, no, I cannot say that.
Well, if she says she's coming alone and she says, "I'm bringing the boys," one of those is a lie. Right?
I do not know.
So you're saying she can go alone and still have the boys with her?
Maybe she could be making up her mind. I cannot speak as to whether or not her mindset in those messages.
But as far as whether that's probative of anything, we don't know.
We just know
Did you talk to the boyfriend?
Yes.
Did you ask him or subpoena him to come testify?
I don't believe he's been subpoenaed.
Why wouldn't you subpoena him?
I didn't subpoena him.
Would that not be better evidence than text messages we don't even know if he received or wrote or somebody else did?
Like I said, I did not subpoena him, sir.
But in order for us to know if that's him responding, would it not be better to subpoena him and have him here to testify so we would know?
Yes.
All right.
He
Nothing
verified
further.
that those were his messages being sent.
You don't know those were his messages, do you?
They're from Thomas Richards' account.
But that doesn't mean it's his, does it?
They're just from his account.
Have you talked to any of the assistant DAs around here who have posted things on Facebook and sent messages about what a great lawyer Jake Lockwood is?
No, I have not.
What do you call that when somebody else messages on your phone?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Nothing.
Anything further? If you wish to make your argument, I'll be glad. If you have any other questions, then I'll hear you an argument about this particular issue.
Just argument. I think Mr. Lockhart is on the right track in one component with the questions he's asking. We're not asserting that these messages are truthful. That's why they're outside of the rules of hearsay. I mean, this is not hearsay because we're not asserting them to be truthful. We are asserting them because they are relevant in this case to show intent and motive. And that's obvious because she's messaging this guy, telling him all of these explicit things and her ideas of moving to Kansas. And as soon as those messages end, the defendant begins searching DNA paternity tests. I mean, it's pretty obvious what's going on. So answering and arguing in this case, we're outside hearsay. It's relevant for intent and motive. We have properly authenticated via search warrant and certificate of authentication through Facebook just so that we can be sure that a Facebook hasn't been hacked. It's actually the records from Facebook with the certificate of Crystal Daniels.
Mr. Lockhart?
Your Honor, I'll be brief. They've interviewed the boyfriend. They could have subpoenaed him in. This testimony is definitely more prejudicial than relative, than probative. It is a good portion of these conversations about having sex. They can't even say that Joseph Daniels saw those. So how is that relevant to motive if they can't prove that he saw those? It was on the 8-year-old son's tablet, and he has no evidence that that she would have left that on the tablet, and in fact says he hoped she wouldn't leave that on the tablet. So that's just straining to try to say this is more probative than prejudicial. I'd ask the court to keep it out. Your Honor, it is hearsay, and we've kept a pretty clean trial up to this point, and I just submit this would just be horrendous for the state to try to introduce this evidence.
Well, it is a statement made outside of court, but again, the majority of the statements have to do with showing that this was a relationship she had with this individual, whoever you may be. It also clearly can be construed as it goes to motive, considering the fact that if all of these evidences are taken together, meaning the stream of these messages between Crystal Daniels and this Thomas Richards, if you take those and then you take in conjunction with it what the state is saying about and showing about his message or his searching for paternity testing, then it certainly can be argued that this constitutes a motive, and that, you know, again, with his message to his mother that apparently threatened suicide just days before the alleged incident. Relationship, and therefore a lot of issues concerning his stability and his marriage's stability. I think that it is relevant on the issue of motive. I think it is relevant. If you take all of that together, my concern had been the last statement that was made between Mr. Richards and Mrs. Daniels, where he asked her, "Is it true?" And she says, "I think so," or something like that. That causes me some concern because it could be construed or argued that that in and of itself would be a question regarding the missing child. It occurred after this child was missing, and it could be a statement, a testimonial type statement, or a statement of Crystal Daniels accusing Mr. Daniels, which I think we must err on the side of caution in excluding that. Other than that, it would seem to me that the plans to come, the billboard or the dry erase board that was shown in prior testimony and photographs said I think it was 50 days or 60 days till Crystal and Alex go to Kansas. The question that Mr. Lockhart has raised with this officer and his testimony are all legitimate questions, and that can be asked in front of the jury, cross-examining him about whether they even know this was the individual, Mr. Richards, or whether they know it was Crystal Daniels that was checking airlines, or whether it was Joseph Daniels. One argument you can make is that Joseph Daniels finds out she's going to Kansas, so he starts checking the site to see if he can locate whether or not she has made reservations to go there, or by Greyhound or whatever. Those are arguments that can be made to the jury. Those are questions that can be raised. But as far as the admissibility, this is a matter that can be established by the business records exception to the hearsay rule. It is relevant information. It goes to show motive and intent. And in this court's opinion, the relevance outweighs any prejudice to the defendant, and therefore the court would allow it to be admissible with the exception of those last two sentences, which I think could be construed to be accusatory. So we'll take a recess and allow you to make those changes.
May I be heard in requesting a finding?
I thought I just made a finding.
Your Honor did not make a finding that Joseph Daniels read the lewd conversations about sex. This officer has testified that he would hope they wouldn't even be on there. So I'm asking for a finding as to how.
You're saying that Joseph Daniels read them, or Alex Daniels?
Joseph Daniels. He's testified that he doesn't have evidence to show that Joseph Daniels read that conversation on Alex Nolan's tablet. And so I'm asking the court, how is that relevant to motive when it's not on Joseph's tablet and there's been no testimony? And he said he cannot provide evidence that Joseph Daniels read that.
All right, I'll make that finding. My finding is that the evidence circumstantially indicates that Mr. Daniels read or was aware of that situation in view of the fact that he text messages his mother contemporaneously with all of this taking place, saying essentially that when you read this, I'll be 6 feet under. He said, F this world, by the time you see this, I'll be 6 feet under. This court's opinion that circumstantially indicates that he either knew about this relationship or that he was aware of the fact that she intended to leave him, or that he was aware of her situation with this. I don't think that it requires that I find that Mr. Daniels actually read these text messages. These text messages are being introduced to show the actual existence of a relationship between Ms. Daniel and this individual, which circumstantially indicates, again, the fact that these parties have marital problems, that Mr. Daniels was so upset that he was threatening suicide. That is this court's finding.
So they can't argue that he read those actual messages?
They can argue whatever they want to argue. They can question this witness whatever they want, and you're free to object. I am making the ruling that I have just made, and that is my ruling on this matter. Thank you. We'll stand at recess for 15 minutes to allow the state to make those changes, and we'll come back and begin with the jury again.
All rise.
Recording stopped.
This court is in recess for 15 minutes.